We made it to day 5, our last day in our mini-series on CPTSD, and we're closing with one of the topics that resonates the most for me, which is how CPTSD distorts our sense of self. In safe, supportive environments, we ideally get to grow into ourselves, to build our self-awareness as children, our agency, and our sense of capability. A well-developed sense of self feels coherent and continuous across time. But with CPTSD and childhood trauma especially, this disrupts the development of a unified or positive sense of ourselves. For me, I remember the exact moment when I first realized I was bad. This went so deep, I truly believed that I did not deserve to exist. I didn't want to believe that I was a bad person, and honestly, I didn't have very well-developed reasons for believing this. I just knew it was true. And this left me feeling like my only option was to hide the truth about being bad for as long as I possibly could. And I lived in constant fear of the day that someone would inevitably get close enough to me to discover that the person who they thought I was this whole time was actually a fraud. I don't believe those same things about myself anymore, but I work every day with clients who carry all kinds of negative core beliefs, most of which boil down to feeling bad, unworthy, powerless, or permanently broken. To better understand how complex trauma creates such negative self-perception, we'll go over 3 things in this video today. We will look at how complex trauma impacts neural connectivity between different parts of our brain. We will look at the role that memory plays in how we view ourselves. And finally, we'll close with exploring why developing negative beliefs about ourselves can be protective in the case of trauma. Starting with neural connectivity, a wide body of research suggests that self-related thoughts and experiences are processed by the default mode network, or the DMN. The DMN is a large-scale cortical network along our brain's midline, including regions like the posterior cingulate cortex, the precuneus, and the medial prefrontal cortex. Each of these brain regions contributes to different aspects of our self-related processing. At rest, people with CPTSD show lowered DMN connectivity, but when we're exposed to trauma-related triggers, we exhibit increased connectivity. So basically, the parts of our brain that create a sense of self are more active when we're in a fearful state than when we're calm. This can explain why many trauma survivors may have a very rudimentary sense of self, or may feel more themselves when they're afraid, going back to our video on how we can become compulsively drawn to stress and drama. Some trauma survivors report feeling like they have no sense of self at all, and for others, their core self may feel broken and fragmented. My clients often tell me they don't know who they are, or that it feels like they've lost who they were and can never get it back. Many of them also describe their innermost selves as corrupted, decaying, or rotten. Again and again, we run into this deep feeling of brokenness. They talk about trauma like this force that cracked the timeline of their lives apart, and after the trauma, time and their sense of self split into all these separate pieces. Many of them do not feel like the same person they were before the trauma, and often idealize the before version of themselves and judge or even despise the person who the trauma turned them into. A lot of this makes sense. Traumatic experiences are often conflicting and hard to assimilate. They leave us with memories that don't fit together, that feel impossible to understand and too overwhelming to fully take in. So with trauma, there is a certain logic to the lack of logic. It makes sense that these awful events feel senseless, and there is a kind of coherence in having a fragmented and incoherent sense of self. Coherence therapy in particular can help us understand how emotional memory, feeds into these negative beliefs about ourselves. So our brain has many different memory systems, but for therapy and healing work, the type we care about is emotional schematic memory. Emotional schematic memory is formed around memories where we experience something emotionally significant, intense, or repetitive. And these emotional experiences shape our lifelong beliefs, creating schemas, or what we call in therapy core beliefs. Core beliefs that are designed to help us understand how to function in the world, understand who we are, and what we can expect from others. The main thing to know about emotional memory is that it is designed not to change. So, a lot of the core beliefs we form are from emotionally significant experiences in childhood, and the core beliefs we form around those are not supposed to change our whole lives. This is a system to protect us from future harm by keeping these core beliefs as vivid and strong as when we first experienced that traumatic or emotionally significant event. So even when they hurt us now, these core beliefs remain intact as long as our memory system is functioning properly. Bruce Ecker, one of the pioneers of coherence therapy, calls our emotional memory system survival positive, but says it confines us to live as prisoners of our childhood. In the last decades, neuroscientists have found a way to rewrite and change emotional memory, but its natural resistance to change explains why rebuilding our sense of self after trauma is so difficult. Best practice for treating complex trauma is to approach this healing work in phases. My early work with clients often involves helping them recognize their inner critic and the beliefs that they are bad, unworthy, powerless, or damaged. Even with awareness, though, changing these core beliefs is difficult because they once served to protect us. Low self-worth often comes from blaming ourselves for our trauma. And as children, blaming ourselves can feel safer than seeing the adults in our lives as unsafe or incapable of meeting all of our needs, because we depend on these adults to survive. Depending on our developmental stage, we may also still believe that we are at the center of and the cause of everything that happens to us. This is a trait called egocentrism, which is a normal developmental stage children go through. It isn't selfishness, it is a developmental limit in our ability to understand others' feelings and motives, to recognize they may have little to do with us, as well as to understand more complex cause and effect. Even adults who experience trauma also often default to self-blame, because finding someone to blame, even ourselves, is a common way we're attempting to regain a sense of control after that trauma. Blaming and even hating ourselves can be more tolerable than feeling powerless to stop the bad thing that happened to us. So our brains unconsciously adopt negative self-beliefs to avoid deeper feelings of helplessness or grief. Low self-worth helps us avoid deeper pain by protecting us from truths that feel more unbearable. Low self-worth may help us preserve a positive image of our parents or the adults in our lives, and it helps us avoid the pain of acknowledging how they hurt us or failed to love us in the way we needed. Low self-worth can help us maintain present-day relationships with our family by maintaining our family or our culture's view of ourselves, even negative view, so that we're staying within their shared reality. Low self-worth can also give us a sense of control, because if we cause the bad thing to happen to us, maybe we can prevent it from happening again. Low self-worth keeps us safe by discouraging us from expressing ourselves, taking risks, or fighting back in a way that may trigger more harm. It shields us from grieving over all the potential we may feel like we lost because of the trauma by convincing ourselves that we were never capable in the first place. Low self-worth also relieves the existential weight of taking responsibility for ourselves and for our lives. Low self-worth can be used to maintain a view of the world, God, or other people as fair, good, and sensible, It's a way to preserve our familiar roles and identities, helping us avoid the overwhelming disorientation of redefining ourselves and how we relate to other people. Low self-worth is also a way of holding on to our pain and staying stagnant so that we can try to make others see the harm they caused us, this quest for accountability. And being seen as wounded or not functioning may be the only way we've ever received the care, sympathy, or attention we long for. Learned helplessness can also feel like a form of penance, proof we're not truly bad because we feel guilty. After all, a bad person wouldn't even feel bad about being bad, right? And finally, feeling unworthy reassures us that we are different from the people who hurt us, who may never have felt or showed shame or questioned the impact of their actions on other people. All of these reasons are usually unconscious, but we have many of them. There are many reasons to resist seeing ourselves more positively. For trauma survivors, then, building a sense of self-worth takes a lot of courage and strong support. As a therapist, one of my main therapeutic goals is helping my clients get to a place of unconditional self-worth. For some, we may be building a sense of themselves from scratch. I might be doing a lot of mirroring and reflective listening aimed at helping my clients uncover their deeper feelings and needs. We might be doing parts work, and I might be offering a lot of compassionate reflections about how I see them and understand them. I also use tools like EMDR and IFS to help my clients revisit and reprocess traumatic moments where that sense of time or sense of self split. A lot of the work I'm doing throughout all this is somatic, helping clients reconnect with their bodies, live in their bodies again instead of dissociating to protect themselves, and learning how to regulate our strong visceral emotions. Having gone through all this, I am so grateful to work as a therapist today with access to such amazing research and healing tools. So although our brains are really resistant to changing the core beliefs we form during traumatic experiences, we have these amazing therapies like coherence therapy that are using neuroscience to make this change possible. What we understand about emotional memory is that transformational change requires first activating the feelings behind our negative core beliefs. That might be activating that shame, guilt, and fear. Then we bring in enough opposite subjective experiences to challenge those old beliefs. We're essentially giving our brains lived proof that counters our feelings of worthlessness or brokenness. These can be moments when we felt capable, loving, whole, smart, skilled, trustworthy. We can go looking for these moments in my client's past. We can also create them in the present, even in the therapy session. Although all this is hard work, this healing work is the gift that keeps on giving. It gives to us, all of the people around us, and the generations that came before and will come after us. It also connects us to the truth, which is that we are born worthy of dignity and respect, and that nothing will ever change this. And it helps us see this truth in others.